You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristodoulou.
Welcome back, everyone, to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristodoulou, and it is officially game day for Week 2 of the USFL, as the Michigan Panthers and New Jersey Generals will kick things off tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys can catch it on the USA Network. Pretty interesting matchup that we have to start things off tonight. We have a team that could not get out of their own way last week against the New Jersey Generals team that played arguably a better overall game than the Stallions, but still came up short. So two 0-1 teams looking to notch their first wins of the season. And then, of course, we got three other games, two more on Saturday, one on Sunday. It is great to have football back during springtime. It is fun being able to watch this all. I hope you guys are as excited as I am for week number 2. So without further ado, we will dive right into it. I'm going over my picks. I will talk a little bit about the betting odds and just kind of give my overall reasons for as to why I am selecting who I am selecting. So starting off with game number 1, as I mentioned, the Michigan Panthers and the New Jersey Generals. The Generals are currently -1 favorites at the time of this recording, with an over-under sitting at about 40.5. This is, again, an interesting matchup, mainly because the Michigan Panthers, especially in the second half, Shea Patterson started to figure things out. Ultimately, though, they went to Paxton Lynch, and he kind of gave the game away. Interception, fumble. I mean, you name it, and the Panthers made those mistakes in the game last week. And quite honestly, I think that they're a really good team. They just need to not get out of their own way. And I understand why the Generals are only -1 favorites in this matchup here. But I will say that the Generals showed some pretty solid continuity on offense. Defense was definitely pretty good as well. Quarterback Perez, the quarterback of the Generals, Perez over there. I mean, you want to talk about a surprise for somebody who came in so late in the preseason lead up, or whatever you want to call it, into the season. Talk about just the play that he had, and then Johnson as well on the ground. I mean, there's just so much to be excited about with this Generals team, because both QBs bring different styles of play and can be successful in different ways. So, 1, you have a pretty solid quarterback duo situation going on there. 2, Satterfield, dude popped off. 5 catches, 100 yards, a touchdown on top of that. The defense, 8 passes defensed, an interception. They also had a sack as well. The Panthers are in for a battle in this one here. And when I talked about my power rankings, I did say that, the Gamblers, they're a little bit uninspiring for me offensively. I think that the Panthers, if they had not turned the ball over so many goddamn times, maybe they'd be in a better position going into this game, and they might even be 1-0, but they're not. Over-under sitting at 40.5, I think, is a pretty steep over-under. I think that it's going to take a little bit for these numbers to actually reach these high 40s, because last week when I was going through my game previews and I was looking at the over-unders, I kind of based my scores somewhere around them, and it was clear coming out of week 1 that it's going to take the offenses a little bit to essentially reach that level of being able to put up that many points consistently week to week. Score lines were really, really low coming out of week 1, minus the first game of the entire season. So with that in mind, for my winner of the game, I'm going to take the Generals. I do like them. I think that there's still, I have so many questions for the Panthers. Can they get out of their own head? Can they make solid drives happen without turning the ball over to kill themselves getting late into the drive? I just want to see the Panthers play good football. I know the Generals can play good football, so I have a hard time picking against the Generals in this one here. They're -1 favorites. My score line's sitting at 21-14 for a final score, which does mean I'm taking the under in this game because, like I said, I think it's going to take some time. Some of these defenses feel like they're a little bit ahead of the offenses, especially the line play. You can see that some of the offensive lines are still trying to figure things out, and when it comes to offensive line, like line play just in general, the linemen need to have time together to really understand how to work with one another as a group of five, because you're taking five pieces and you're trying to create one unit that works together, and it takes a little bit of time for that to start to mesh, and that's for everyone in the league. I think that every single offensive line clearly just needs a little bit more time to get things clicking, and I think it's going to take the offenses a little bit to kind of catch up to speed, and there's a clear advantage right now, I would say, for the defense, because the defense, they play off the offense. They're reacting to what the offense is doing, and it's clear that the offenses are still working a little bit slower than I think that they're eventually going to reach come, maybe like weeks 4, 5, 6, around that time when things really start to pick up and these teams have been playing together for a little bit longer. Now, going into game number 2, we are looking at the Pittsburgh Maulers versus the Philadelphia Stars. It's going to be on Saturday, noontime, 12 p.m. Eastern. Stars are a heavy favorite in this one, the biggest favorite of the weekend, currently sitting at -7 at the time of recording, with an over-under sitting at 34.5, and I understand why this is the lowest over-under of the week. The Stars looked really solid last week, considering they played what everyone is considering right now the best defense in the league, the New Orleans Breakers. They were still able to put up 17 despite the 6 sacks that came their way, turnover as well. So I want to praise the Stars for their just tenacity and ability to fight through a game that, was not really going their way offensively. I'm also very excited about the running back duo over there of Holland and Colburn II. I think, not Holborn. I'm like combining names here. Holland on the ground and Colburn as a pass catcher is a really good duo, and I think a strength that this team needs to lean on offensively and kind of figure out what exactly they can get out of these guys. But the Maulers defense, pretty solid group themselves. They're definitely no slouch. I will say that out of all the bad that came out of the game last week against the Bandits, the Maulers defense was pretty good. Couple of interceptions off of Jordan Teamu, and realistically, they only held the Bandits to 17 points, despite the fact that the offense was literally doing nothing all game and was able to muster up just a field goal for an entire 60 minutes of play. So I expect the Maulers defense to really carry this team, at least for the foreseeable future, until the offense, again, like I mentioned for the last game there, it's going to take offenses some time to catch up. I think the Maulers offense needs to really catch up, and it will take some time. This defense will have to carry them, but I do like the Stars for this game. I like them as the heavy favorite here. It just feels like offensively, I don't know if Pittsburgh can keep up with them. I hope that Pittsburgh changes their mindset a little bit. I understand wanting to hammer the ball on the ground and establish a physicality and kind of, dominate the game at the line of scrimmage. But realistically, you need to be able to throw the football, and we did not really see much of that coming out of either of the two quarterbacks over there in Pittsburgh. So we'll have to see how they kind of game plan around that. And I'm expecting a little bit more passing this week. But I do like the Stars. I have them winning 17-10, which again puts the under with a combined score of 27. Again, from what I've read from like some betting odds and things like that, it seems like a lot of people are going to be taking the unders going forward, at least for like the next few weeks until these offenses start to click. I like the under again, 17-10. Again, I like what the Maulers do defensively. I think that their offense is going to hold them back a little bit. I think that Philadelphia mustering up 17 points after putting up 17 last week against an even better defense is honestly probably lowballing them a little bit. I could see the Stars maybe scoring a little bit more, but 17-10, I'm comfortable with. Game number 3. This one's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. We have the Birmingham Stallions going up against the Houston Gamblers. The Stallions are -3 favorites, and the over-under is sitting at 41. I've got to say this, and I said it a lot in my power rankings about the Gamblers. I'm not very inspired by what they do on offense, and there's not a ton for me to really be excited about with them offensively. I respect their defense and how well they played last week, but I'm unsure of whether I can give them enough credit because, again, the Panthers just could not get out of their own way, and I want to say that some of their success was also more from the Panthers than it was just from what they did defensively. Like I hate saying stuff like that because I don't want to take away from the defense, but you also can't look away from just how poorly the offense was playing and handling the football against them. So you have the Gamblers, who offense does not do too much for me. But on the flip side, you look at the Stallions and what they were able to do on offense. Jamar Smith, man, he took over. Magoo, I was never really excited about for them, but when Jamar Smith came in, and despite the fact that he had a 52.4% completion percentage, when it mattered most, he was making the plays that needed to be played, whether it was, completions through the air or even just on the ground when he scored the rushing touchdown at the end of the game. I like what Jamar Smith brings to the table. I like how he has to make the defense kind of second guess themselves with what they're doing. Is he going to take off? And he didn't even really have to run that much in game one, but he was able to take off when it mattered. And I know the defense has to account for that. Defense for the Stallions themselves, also a solid grouping, 3 sacks. I mean, overall, the ability to come out of that game where you lost the time of possession battle. They had 22 minutes and 5 seconds of time of possession. So that means that the Generals were sitting at what? If it's 22 and a half, that's 37 minutes and 55 seconds of time of possession for the Generals. For you to completely get slaughtered in time of possession, you basically only had the ball for like a third of the game. And to be able to still come out and win, that says a lot about your team. This says a lot about the coaching and mentality that this team has, the culture there, the fact that they were not willing to just, lay down and die. I like the Stallions. I'm going to take the Stallions for the win. I have a scoreline of 21-17. I do think this game will be a little bit closer. I'm expecting to maybe see a little bit more out of the Gamblers this week offensively, but I do think that the defense slows down the Stallions a little bit more because, again, I don't want to take away too much from what the Gamblers did defensively, but I also can't, ignore just how bad the Panthers were playing offensively altogether in that game. 21-17, give me the Stallions. That also means I am taking the under scoreline. 21-17 equals 38. Over-under sitting at 41. You'll obviously start to notice a common theme here with what I am hammering for this week's scorelines. And then going into game number 4, the New Orleans Breakers, my guys, taking on the Tampa Bay Bandits Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The Bandits are going into this one as the favorites, sitting at -2.5. The over-under is sitting at 40.5. This is my game of the week. I'm excited for this one because you have what people are labeling as the number 1 and number 2 teams, depending on who you're looking at. I saw the USFL themselves have the Bandits ranked as the number 1 team, Breakers at number 2. I myself ranked the Breakers at number 1, Bandits. I think I actually have it number 3, if I'm not mistaken. I understand the hype around the Bandits. They shut down Pittsburgh, but you cannot look at what Pittsburgh did in that game and really say, oh yeah, the Bandits shut them down. I mean, the first 7 plays they ran were runs on offense, the Maulers, that is, and for whatever reason, just completely blew their first 2 offensive possessions away. Meanwhile, the Bandits went up their first drive. Teamu looked great in that opening drive, completely diced up the defense before things started to slow down a little bit. You could tell it was a very scripted first drive for them, and they hit everything that they needed to start that game. But as the game kind of wore on, Teamu did throw a couple of interceptions. The Maulers defense did start to give them some problems. They held them to 17 despite the fact that their offense was literally doing nothing all game long besides that 1 field goal. So even though the Bandits are favorites, I mean, the Breakers defense last week, 6 sacks, an interception. I think they had 4 tackles for loss as well. They were a problem, and they could be for the Bandits too here. Couple that with the fact that the offense was able to move the ball fairly effectively. Kyle Sloter had 150 yards, interception, not exactly the best game, but again, I think all of the offenses are lagging a little bit. It's going to take them some time to really get together and play the offensive schemes that they're trying to develop around, and that's for every single team, all 8 teams. So I expect as time goes on, offenses will start to click more. I expect Kyle Sloter to maybe have a slightly better game than last week if he can avoid the interception and they focus on the ground game. Because listen, the Maulers could not really throw, so they were relying a lot on the run. And the Bandits were able to take advantage of that defensively and basically stack the box and shut them down. The Breakers can at least throw the ball somewhat well. That's going to open things up on the ground for Ellis and Logan Jr., and it smells like a recipe for an upset. And with that in mind, I like the Breakers. Give them to me, 20-17. That combines the score at 37, which again, hammer in the under. I like the Breakers. Give me the upset. This is the one upset I'm picking this week. I picked a couple last week, and I only I think the Breakers were underdogs last week, and they ended up coming out winners. I can't remember who it was that I picked that was the underdog last week. But regardless, this is the one underdog I'm taking this week. I believe in the Breakers' defense. I like what they were able to do on the ground on offense. If Kyle Sloter can just play a clean game and they can rely on that ground game, Bandits might be in trouble. It's going to be an interesting test. Again, this is my game of the week. I'm excited for this one. Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I'm Greek, so we're doing Greek Easter this Sunday, and then I will definitely have this game on to enjoy the rest of it, so I'm looking forward to that. But that is my preview for week number 2 of the USFL. I'm sitting at 1-3 right now. Hopefully we can come out of the, in an ideal world, come out of the week at 5-3. That would be excellent, but let's try to get back to 500. That would be ideal for me. So if I go 3-1, that would be really nice. But that is it for me. I appreciate you guys for watching. Comment down below. Let me know who you think is going to come out winners this week. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check out my power rankings from this past week if you have not already. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good one.